Chapter 7 – Personal Hygiene. This chapter introduces the importance of good personal hygiene in the safe production of food, including best practice approaches such as the approved hand washing technique and the importance of reporting illness correctly. Let's get back to the guys who are ready to tell us more.
Chapter 7, Personal Hygiene. Now, I've had a word with my agent and apparently I'm contractually obliged to tell you that I'm obsessed with personal hygiene. But the truth is, when it comes to food handlers and personal hygiene, I'm flipping obsessed. I'll tell you why. Because every year I see food handlers make mistake after mistake after mistake, even as far as going for a poo during service and not washing their hands. It's just not good enough. Poor personal hygiene is probably the single biggest cause of food poisoning outbreaks, isn't it, Nick?
It is. Oh dear, he's off on a rant again. But as much as it pains me to say, he's actually right. Remember due diligence from chapter 1? You have a legal responsibility to observe high standards of personal hygiene. It really is that simple. But whether it's down to ignorance, people forgetting, or simply not being bothered, so many food handlers neglect good personal hygiene and your customers end up with food poisoning.
Yes, they do, don't they? Let me just go to a happy place, Nick. Now, starting the working day clean gives a good impression to your customers and plays a vital role in reducing contamination. Have a bath or a shower every day to remove much of the bacteria that's found on your hair and skin. That same bacteria that can live on stale perspiration and cause body odour.
Thanks for that. Okay, deodorants can help to prevent unpleasant body smells. However, try to avoid strongly scented deodorants and perfumes. Aftershave, also cosmetics as well, because they can contaminate food. It's also vital you wash your hands immediately before starting work. More on hand washing later on in this chapter though.
Yeah, also avoid wearing jewellery and watches while working. Bacteria can live on things like watch straps, bracelets and rings. That's a bacterial hazard. And there's also danger of those items falling into food. That's a physical hazard. Some companies will allow staff to wear a plain wedding ring and sometimes sleeper earrings. Just ask your employer's policy on what that might be.
Yeah. Next up, we want to talk a little bit about protective clothing.
Let's have a look at clothing. First up, you should avoid wearing or carrying any outdoor clothes into a food area, as these items can introduce bacteria and physical contaminants. Imagine you come to work on the bus in your chef whites, you are contaminating things, aren't you? Walking straight in the kitchen or the prep area, bacteria everywhere. So let's just have a little look at Nick here and let's have a look at what he's got on. And we're going to start from the bottom upwards, aren't we, Nick? So just talk through us. You've got some foot protectors on there, haven't you?
Okay, yes, thank you very much for that, Marcus. Foot protectors. To be honest, it's best if you can have a second pair of shoes at the office, for want of a better word, in the kitchen.
Agreed.
Clogs are great, you'll see them quite a lot. If you can't though, foot protection like this, because the amount of dirt and rubbish that's on the sole of a shoe is quite a lot, and you don't want to bring it into your food production area. So if you can, keep them outside, and a set of clogs are really good, aren't they?
Absolutely. Now you've got a coat on here, disposable coat. Nick.
Yes, I've got a disposable coat. This is mainly used for visitors that are coming into the business where they've got their outdoor clothing on. It's a little bit different from you, so they're just designed to stop everything falling into the food.
Okay, so I'll take that off you. Get rid of that.
Thank you, sir.
Now then, you've got a chef's jacket on there, I noticed.
Yes, the next thing is what most people do tend to wear is chef's whites. The beauty of them is being quite light coloured. You can see dirt build up very quickly on it, can't you? They've got removable plastic buttons, so you can get this off. Hot boil wash these things, don't you? Yeah. And the buttons, because they're plastic like that, they're pretty easy to see if they fall into any of the food as well.
Very good.
No external pockets, anything like that.
Yeah, very, very good. Now,
so that's my chef's whites.
Fantastic. Now I notice you've got something in your hand.
I'm not really sure what this is.
Because it looks like a beard.
That's
protector.
it. That's it. I was struggling. Beard protector. Mainly, Mainly if you're in somewhere like a production area, or maybe even on a deli, to be honest. If you've got a beard, you're going to have hair that can potentially fall off into the food, so stop that.
Brilliant. The next thing you've got a pair of matching gloves on there. Nick, you haven't been good at colours, have you?
I couldn't decide which colour I preferred, to be honest.
Right,
one suits my eyes and one doesn't.
Yeah.
So the first one is, you can't beat a decent pair of marigolds, can you?
Personal protective equipment.
Personal protective equipment indeed. Ideal for washing up because they're a little bit thicker and they will stand the heat a little bit more. Give you some protection. I'm a bit hot
Now
today.
you've got...
Right, typical disposable gloves like that. You may be working in a prep area. You may be prepping a lot of raw food, a lot of raw chicken. These are great things to avoid cross-contamination. You may also want to wear them, for example, if you're handling money.
Yeah.
Make sure it's not the same glove that handles money that handles
How true.
your raw food, so just remember that.
How true.
Another tip as well is before you put one of these bad boys on is wash your hands first. Clean your hands first before you put those on.
Absolutely. And you next, a bit more of personal protective equipment. You've got a pair of goggles on, haven't you?
Do you know, I've forgotten. Yeah, these are really designed to protect me, either with cleaning chemicals, think about it, you're using a lot of bleach, or hot pans, things like that. So they're designed, hopefully, to stop me getting any eye damage.
You are. The next thing, you've got a hat on, haven't you, Nick?
I have at least one hat on.
Yes.
You know me, I like to wear
Hat first.
more than one. So, traditional pork pie hat, as they call it, a little bit of ventilation, quite a tight fit, stops any hair or scalp.
Yeah, you mean skin.
I'm just checking. Yeah, any skin or hair dropping into the food. Because what bacteria is on hair?
Do you know? Do you know?
I know.
Staphylococcus aureus.
Yep. We are one of the worst pollutants of food.
And the last thing you've got on, definitely your colour, Nick, hairnet.
Yeah, again, I weren't sure which one had suited me. Obviously, we're in a test kitchen filming today, so we're not cooking any food. If we were, we would have hats on at all time, especially him with all that hair, but we both need them. These are cheap, inexpensive and easy to use, aren't they?
Yeah, they are.
So-
And what's your top tip then with your hairnet, Nick?
Right, the one thing that we do suggest and strongly suggest is you actually, when you dress from the head downwards.
Absolutely.
The reason is you lose more hair and scalp, skin from here than anywhere else in your body, so make sure that you get that done first and then work your way downwards.
Yeah, and that's it from us.
We're now going to have Marcus's 2-hour hand washing lecture.
Keep watching.
Good hand washing techniques. Something you might not know about me, but I'm obsessed about hand washing. In fact, my girlfriend thinks I wash my hands too much. One of the downsides, of course, is that you do need to buy more hand cream because your hands are going to get a little bit raw. But you should be as obsessed about hand washing as I am. And if you're not right now, you will be after listening to me for a few minutes. Because you might not realise, but it's a simple fact that most people don't know how to wash their hands properly. Now, we've already seen through binary fission the bacteria can grow to alarming and dangerous numbers, and in just a few hours. So after washing, your hands can then be covered literally by millions of bacteria. So, hold out your hands in front of you and ask yourself this question: when was the last time that you washed them? And if you haven't washed them for 2 hours or so, you'll have millions of bacteria on them right now. How gross is that? Is it any wonder then that I'm obsessed with hand washing? So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go through with you the steps to good hand washing technique. And ideally there are 7 steps. According to the FSA, first of all, step 1, really what you need to start to do, and I'm going to do this for you in a second or two, is rinse your hands with hot water. Clean hot water, and ideally it wants to be above 45 degrees. This water is pretty hot, so it's way above 45 degrees. So we're going to do that first. The next thing to do is to rub in some antibacterial liquid soap to remove dirt and germs. And the important parts to think about here is most people kind of just work the palms, just like this, but you need to do a couple of other things. You need to make sure that your thumbs get thoroughly worked, thumbs and fingers, and also back of the hand. So you've probably seen surgeons on TV programmes, haven't you, do this? But that's exactly why they're doing that. So these are the bits that often harbour bacteria still after you have washed your hands with the soap and antibacterial. So, important to do that. If your nails are dirty, you might want to use
a nail brush, a bit like this. But you don't have to. So although nail brushes are quite useful, you don't actually need to use a nail brush. After that, step number 5 is to rinse your hands with clean hot water. Step number 6 is then to use some towels to dry your hands, either a hand dryer or, just like I'm doing here, some disposable towels. Why? Because they are more hygienic, so disposable towels, I need one more, and hand dryers. So let's just get rid of those. And that's step 5. So that's step 5 is rinse your hands. Step 6 is use the paper towels or hand dryer. And step 7, this is an optional step really, but you might want to use some sanitising solution. And it's optional, but it's always a good idea. So it just means it's going to reduce those germs and bacteria in your hands to a really safe level. So optional, you don't have to. So they're the 7 steps for you. Now, by law, you need to have separate hand wash basins with hot and cold running water. Soap and drying facilities also need to be provided, just like I showed you here. And it's amazing the amount of times that I go out and that actually is either no soap in the toilets or there's just not adequate hand drying. So they are potential instant closure points if an environmental health officer comes to see you. It's a simple fact that regular appropriate hand washing throughout the day reduces down the number of pathogenic bacteria on your skin and the staff skin that work for you. So while guidance varies according to the different tasks, the regular food handler, in my opinion, should average at least 10 hand washes, and the FSA also states that as well, per working day, allowing for things like toilet breaks and maybe a modest number of task changes as well. Now what I'm going to do now is just go through some must-do hand washing scenarios. So just pay attention to this because I'm going to spend a minute or two going through all these occasions when a food handler, including you, must wash their hands. So the first one to think about is before entering a food prep or service area. Also before or after handling raw food. The next one to think about is before handling any high risk food. After taking a break or eating, drinking or smoking. Also you need to wash your hands, sounds like common sense but people still don't do it, after going to the toilet. Also after blowing your nose, coughing or touching any part of your or their skin or hair. Another time you need to wash your hands is after handling any waste food or other rubbish disposal. Think about after cleaning or using any cleaning chemicals or pest control chemicals. That's another occasion to wash your hands. And also after carrying out any pest or other premises inspections. 1 or 2 more for you. Wash your hands after shaking hands or touching any customers or other people because you don't know whether they've washed their hands and what bacteria they've got on their hands. Also wash your hands after handling, checking or storing a delivery. Another very important area to wash your hands is after touching any source of a potential allergen. And the last one from me, just to wrap up on hand washing occasions, and you see people doing this all the time, don't you, in any sort of food outlet, after handling money. That's it from me. It's ever so easy in a hot, and I can't tell you how hot it is in here today, busy and often high pressure environment to forget about personal hygiene. Now many unhygienic habits seem harmless until you remember how easily food poison bacteria are spread. So let me now give you our 7 bad habits of personal hygiene. Number 1, picking your nose or wiping your nose on a sleeve. Number 2, coughing or sneezing over food or even spitting. Number 3, testing food with your finger or a spoon that has not been thoroughly washed. Blowing or breathing on glassware or cutlery to polish, believe it or not. Handling food without first washing your hands. And failing to wash your hands after going to the toilet or handling rubbish. And the last of the 7 unhygienic habits, eating or dare I say it, even smoking in a food area. You wouldn't believe it happened, would you? Now then, you as a supervisor need to make sure that your staff aren't doing any of these unhygienic habits. If you spot them doing any of them, you need to put a stop to it right now. Yeah, I agree. Completely agree. I think you've got it bang on. Now, Mr. Potato Head and I have got something in common, haven't we? Training, a passion for training. And Nick wasn't getting it, he just seemed to be not feeling it, did he, recently? So we've kind of put a couple of inspirational signs together. This is mine, you can do it, and you can do it too, Nick. And this is Mr. Potato Head's, I'm inspired, soar like an eagle. Not quite sure that you got the spelling probably right there, but the sentiments, I love them. Now, by law, every food handler must be trained in food safety to a level that matches the job role. So in an ideal world, you need to complete that within 3 months of starting work, but really you should be doing it before you're even touching any food, shouldn't you? And at a minimum of a level 2 standard, which is what this level of course is. They all share the same syllabus. So you could be trained internally by your supervisor, but most companies choose to train the staff using externally accredited training courses. Now the reason for this is because you can prove you've done it, you've passed an exam that assesses your understanding of the material and the learning. So it means that you can prove you've made reasonable efforts to train, and thus you have shown due diligence. Do you remember that phrase from chapter 1? So whilst there's no legal requirement to renew your training, it's seen as best practice to refresh your training every 3 years, and your training records need to be completed to provide evidence of that training for your due diligence. It's more important though that not you just understand the training, but you actually implement it. You actually do the stuff that you've learned in your day-to-day activities, because that's going to make the biggest difference. So that's it. We've finished another chapter. Remember, have a go at the recap questions so you're confident for the final exam. And we'll see you in the next chapter, which is all about storage in HACCP. If you already know what HACCP stands for, give yourself another Marcus Gold Star. And it's goodbye from him, and it's goodbye from me.